Okay, so I'm going to put this first, and then my little rant. Two things. I'm doing video. Surrey, City of Surrey, day 3. What I'm doing for the day. I'm kind of achy. Why not? We're not surprised, right? I was lifting big ass freaking waterlogged stumps that my son is pulling out from everywhere and throwing it into a big pile because he's going to clear out the land, clear out everything so he can come with a lawnmower, just mow everything over and call it a fucking day. As he's going to be spreading weeds around now all over the place. And then he wants to put a freaking perma garden, which is just a bunch of weeds growing in with a few vegetables where the grass is. I said, don't do that. Well, you know, I said, I don't think the city would allow that. Well, yeah, they do, you know, how would you know? You don't work with the city. I don't like, actually, I do. You know, I'm the one that's had the whip on the back for the last fucking 12, 14 years here. It's 14 years, because it's on my back right now, right? Whatever you think you got going there, at the end of the day, like, come on, people. and I'm putting this shit back. But as he's grabbing toys around the yard, or whatever he's finding, it doesn't matter. He's just picking it up and just doing like he did in the fucking basement. Just throwing it in the fucking pile. Like, it's so rude, man. It's so bloody rude. And Tisha called me this morning and I told her, you need to come to the house, look at these things that he's throwing out in the back that he's going to throw out in this fucking bin that he's getting. And when you come with the kids in the summertime, there won't be nothing for them to play with. Little kitchen set for little Kyrie and ShaMay. I said, they're only little once, right? I know you're leaving, you're going to go to the island in a year or two, but that's a couple of years those kids could be playing with the things that Andre had, that little lawnmower when Andre was a little boy. Like, you know what I mean? And my son just wants to chuck it fucking out because my landlady puts pressure on him, quote unquote, to clean the yard. And he doesn't want to dick around with it. He just wants to come in with one lawnmower, mow everything down and fucking call it a day. And then come back and do it again 2 weeks later and call it a fucking day. You know how many weeds are going to be on this property within a year? Well, the city of Surrey's now got me outside, right, working, blind as a bat. Like, seriously, man, you don't even know people. Fucking going after my son, feeling like garbage, right? Populating and feel like puking, man, because of this stress that these people put upon my family and myself, and the fence are falling down, and I'm thinking, oh my God, so what does that mean? I have to go out there in 2 months from now when this fucking warms up and the city come by and the fence is falling down, when are you going to fix it? Landlord, you must have did that. It's been 14 years. Why didn't you fix it? It was your responsibility. Everything in the fucking yard is your responsibility. When we all damn well know it's none of my responsibility, people. So not only I'm battling my fucking landlord in the stupid city right now, but I'm battling with my son. Destroying, like, he's literally digging up my fucking flowers that you can't find no more because he doesn't want to deal with the weeding part of it when they die off. My landlady will come and say, well, what happened to those flowers? I'll say, I don't know. You asked my son to fucking clean up the yard. He fucking dug them up and threw them out. There you go. You know? It'll be nothing but weeds. And then she'll get mad at me for that, assuming that she even owns the property because all she's interested in is selling off the problem. So she doesn't have to take no fucking responsibility for anything that she's caused to my family in terms of the hurt and the hardship and the struggle and the pain. Where is that good dream, people? There is no fucking good dream. 2 days ago, was I ranting and raving and going on about this crap? No! I was trying to stay focused and get Murray on a fucking routine so that he's not being polluted with these damn drinks where he can't fucking shit. And the next thing you know, he's in a freaking hospital because he had a bloody seizure. Because that shit, when it did finally come out, came out under some, I don't know, flew out of him, scared the shit. Ah! That's why he did that, people. Because of those drinks. And I'm, today, what is the date? I can't even remember. I'm so stressed out with this shit, man. I'm feeling fucking guilty, people. Guilty. Psychological warfare. Isn't that what slaves do when they're enslaved? They feel fucking guilty when they're not pleasing their masters. Aren't they afraid when they're not pleasing their masters the way the masters want to be pleased? Because they know the master's gonna come back in and beat the fucking shit out of them, whip their back until it's bloody and red. R-A-P-E in the middle of the fucking night, and you can't do nothing about it except accept it? And then wait for it to happen again and again? Because there is no escape? These people that do this kind of shit in partnership with corrupt fucking governments do it on purpose, make it that you have no place to go, make it that you have no place to escape to, make it so that you have no safety, no sense of security, no nothing. So they can corner you when you finally snap, call you crazy, and either knock you off one way or another and then call it an accident or a suicide, or lock you up. Because don't forget, with this new election that we just had, and this is the second thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm not even going to take you into the kitchen with me. I'm just going to upload this and what I had before this. But I'm going to put this part first, because you have to understand extremely how stressed out I am with what's going on out of the blue, all of a sudden. That's like my landlady coming out of the blue, all of a sudden, with her older son, the one that likes to do good business by threatening people to bring fucking bins and throw everything out in the fucking garbage. Okay? And then say that's good business. Because I can't keep with their fucking demands. Now that's a real slave master. When someone really mistreats you like that. Right? You know, take me to the back, use the window as the excuse, talk all nice to me, right? Tell me that you're interested, and then walk me over to the front where that energy weapon has been documented to travel through the grass. And then fucking drop the bombshell on me and tell me to evict my son. To get rid of him. Because they want $3,500 a month for the house. Either pay $3,500 a month or evict my son out of the basement and clear it out. And if you can't do that, then get the fuck out. And if you're not going to get the fuck out, I'm coming in with the bins. And I'm like, holy shit, where did this shit come from? I was in the middle of making a video. By the time I got back in, because of that, I must have got shot with an energy weapon, I swear at people, because I came back in. I turned on the camera. I started talking about it. I was a little teary-eyed. But my eyes had already clouded over. Where I was like in a deep fog. Worse than what I got. Because my eyes are dying. Because I'm always in the fucking yard working. The government made sure I couldn't get eye drops with their orders. And then they call it a day saying it was policy. Oh well, you fell through the cracks, deal with it. You're not the only one. Right? Yeah, okay. And it took over an hour for my eyes to clear out. And soon after that, I went blind. But that shit came out of nowhere. And then she came eventually, because they know that's not good business. They can't just do that. So then she come and she asked, later on, a different day, I want more rent. So we settled on $100, even though technically, legally, it was less than that. But she wasn't satisfied. Then she came back 8 months later, out of the fucking blue. Give me what you think, but, Because my son said, well, when I asked her how much she wanted for rent, she was all nice to me. Oh, I don't know, what do you think? And he goes, well, we were discussing it before you even got here. Would you be okay with $100? That's what she does with me. Well, what do you think? Well, I don't know, Mrs. Gill. Maybe $100, like, right? Is that okay? Yeah, okay, fine. But not even 8 months later, she's right back fucking saying, no, it's not enough. I want more. And I'm like, what? Another 100? Yeah, okay. And then she doesn't even want to pay $50 for Alex to fucking, for what he did with that snake out there at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then she's screaming on the phone that she wants $3,000. And then she comes to the fucking January asking for more rent. And he's saying, well, how much? The way she is with me. Acting all sweet and nice and, oh, I don't know. Well, what do you think? He said, oh, $100. Okay. He said, are you okay with that? Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, fuck, not even 2 weeks later, they got the fucking city on my ass. Using the garbage out there as a tool to fucking build a case, right? Got me frazzled, got me razzled, got my son running around with his cortisol going in his brain as they're fucking targeting his car. Not being honest about shit, right? And you know it's just a matter of time before it will spring out again nowhere. It could be in 2 months, could be 4 months, could be 6 months, could be fucking 8 months. But something bad is going to fucking happen. And I'll be right back at screaming at the camera. Because that's the cycle. That's how they fucking derail you people. That's how they keep the people, the families in the houses fighting people. That's how they make people make mistakes because they're sick. They become sick. I am sick today. And I have to cook. I have to choose the yard and my landlord's demands as they hide behind the city when we know there's some shenanigans going on in there. Okay? When all of that shit, anything that's going on could have been prevented if her son just would have been an honorable man and spent at least one day in this yard with me last year, like last summer, right? Because he didn't make it the year before, and he told me he would come, and he didn't. So it got pushed off the last year, like this last summer. And I begged Mrs. Gill on more than one occasion. I begged her, people, please tell Corey to come to the house. Mrs. Gill, make him come and help me with that vinyl siding because the fence needs to be repaired. And we would have dealt with all that shit out there. But no, they wanted to sit there to fucking rot. Put the pressure on my son to clean up the yard so he would turn around and he started swooping up fucking everything, including digging up the fucking flowers. Because he doesn't want to deal with them. He just wants to come over and mow over the fucking dirt and make it so that the weeds can take root. So the what? Mrs. Gill gonna come back, or is it gonna be the new property owner? It's all weeds. What happened? Like, you're not looking after the yard. It's nothing but weeds. Oh yeah, well you can blame that on the previous fucking owner, Mr. and Mrs. Gill and their fucking family, because they're the ones that never came and fucking helped. And when I finally did have flowers in the fucking ground, they put so much stress on us that my son went fucking kind of crazy and cleared out the whole fucking yard and dug up all the flowers and turned everything into fucking weeds. And now you're holding that against me? Do you see how it works, people? And there's no talking to my son, because he knows everything. Oh, you know, Miss Gill didn't talk to you like me. I said, actually, she does. Wait, you haven't seen the other side of her yet. There's a nice Mrs. Gill, and then there's a very mean Mrs. Gill. You haven't seen the mean Mrs. Gill yet. I have, so much so, people, that it makes me sick just even thinking about having to fucking deal with that individual when she's mean. Because I can't win. Because she's always lording over me with that fucking, I don't know. And she doesn't give a shit what happens to my family, even though she'll tell me in my face that she does. But her actions speak louder than words. And so does the family speak louder in terms of their actions when they are negligent to come and fucking help me for something that was never my responsibility. And now they're pawning it off on my son, and he's just going around terrorizing the fucking yard, throwing everything out. He doesn't care about Kyrie. He doesn't care about ShaMay. He doesn't care about anybody. He just wants to make it easy on himself so he can come with a fucking lawnmower and call it a day. So now I'm all in panic mode because the weeds haven't even started to grow yet. But that's all he's creating. And then along comes Mrs. Gill in the summertime, assuming that she still owns the house. Where did all these weeds come from? Like she last year. So looking, well, what's this? I don't know, Mrs. Gill. What do you think that is? That's my son cleaning up. All he did was make a fucking weed patch by taking everything away. Cutting everything down, leaving it there so it could reroot itself. I mean, he's literally digging up my flowers, people. Flowers that you can't find anymore because they came off of properties that were being torn down. And you can't find them anymore. And he's chucking them out because they'll be in the way of the lawnmower. Like, what the hell? He doesn't want the kids to have toys. Why? Oh, well, Tisha's not going to let them play with it. Well, maybe not as much as you'd like her to, but yeah, there'll be days. They're older now. They're not little 1- and 2-year-olds. And ShaMay comes here, the first thing she wants is to play with the fucking toys. But she can't because Marcane won't allow her. He tears everything apart, breaks it down so he can keep Mrs. Gill happy as it's piling up. And then they use that as an excuse to attack my family and make me psychologically fucking sick. To which brings me to the second part of this introduction to this stupid-ass video. Because this shit's getting old. Real fucking old. But they made it where I can't leave. There is no affordable housing in any kind of fucking capacity. I can't go to an old apartment building because they got them at $2,700 a month while you live there until they're fucking destroyed. Because they're already at city council, going in front of city council to be torn down. For these fucking high and mighty fucking godly fucking property developers, property owners that are turning fucking properties into parking lots as they jimmy the books so that they can plot and scheme how to kick us out so they can turn this into a fucking parking lot while they build that fucking building. And the only people getting rich off of this are those under that conspiracy fucking criminal organization under the Criminal Code of Canada, in partnership with a corrupt fucking government that will use by any means measure, right, to cover it up in court. When you take it to court, and all I can think about is I have to fucking get ready for court, and that's bullshit. Because we know it's a losing battle. Because we are cattle. We get treated like fucking cattle. We don't even be treated like humans here. You're gonna just sell off the problem to the next fucking property owner who's gonna be 10 times meaner than you because he's got 10 fucking times more money than you, which makes him meaner than you? This is what you're dealing with, people. That's what she's gonna sell this house to. Get out! Get out! I don't care where you go. We're building a building for nice people. You're trash. But before you leave, we want this one and this one and this one because we need their body parts so that we can live a nice, long, prosperous life. Because that's the only way they can do it. So, what happens is, some people drink, do drugs, and go bonkers, and have a nervous breakdown, and lose everything. Because you're set up to lose everything. So I suppose you're speeding up the process when you're drinking and, drowning your sorrows. Or doing drugs. Or maybe just have a mental fucking breakdown. Because it's easy to get to that point, because I'm almost there. And that's why I'm not outside. I'm inside, because I have to choose my priorities here. They're making me choose my priorities in terms of, do I feed my grandson, Amari, the calories that he needs, people? Okay? First. Or do I go outside and work outside for 2 weeks every fucking day, knowing it's still not going to be enough, right? Because just around the corner the weeds are coming, and it's going to be 10 times worse than it's ever been, because all the flowers are fucking gone. Not to mention the barriers that I built in, because my son swooped it all out, right? Thinking he's doing a good job, because he wants to keep the landlord happy. Yeah, right. In terms of everything nicely mowed down. Yeah, okay. Well, you're just bringing it back to the state like it was when we first moved in. That's all. And, okay. Or do I cook? Now it's late. I had to clear out my computer to be able to put this up. And, I'm getting up and I'm moving and I'm like, ugh, I'm kind of achy. You know, and I get into the kitchen because of the LED light, everything just goes, whoa. So that, in comes that dizziness. I'm stressed out, clearly. Right? My heart's going like this. My body is tight. Everything that these people like. That's why they do this shit. There's nowhere to go. They don't leave me no options. Right? So I'm like now being, I don't want to say forced, but definitely cornered into trying to protect my family and myself by court. It's either that or go bonkers. And I don't want to go bonkers. And that's why I'm going to cook for Amari first and Andre first and do the dishes and maybe a load of laundry before I get too far behind in it as I'm working outside for people that don't give a jack shit about me and only want me out there so they can sell the house and make their $3 million and go buy another fucking house and start the process over with another sucker, because that's basically what it boils down to. Somebody fresh that's not been through the bullshit like me, right? As they lead my son down the garden path, making him think like he's in control because now he's doing the yard and he could backtalk to me, be rude to me, be condescending to me, right? Because Mrs. Gill can't communicate to me now because, you know, there's conflict, right? And she knows it, right? I love that woman, people. I seen her as like my grandmother. Not love, but I had a high respect for her, a high regard. I had a form of love for her. And all she did was stomp me down that fucking mountain, and she just wants to keep me down there. By any means necessary. It's not what you say, it's what you do. It's the actions speak louder than words. It would have been nothing for her son to come this year and help for one day, if need be, 2 fucking days. And none of us would be in this problem. But you see, the problem makes it easier for them to get rid of us. To build their case. To walk away from the problem. Because they've made the problem be a problem. And they had to blame somebody before they would blame themselves. So they blame me. Just like Tisha. Well, you choose to stay there. No, I don't. I wish I could move, but I can't even move to a fucking dinky old broken down fucking apartment because of the corruption that they've overpriced it as the city is plotting and scheming how to tear down that fucking apartment, knowing that all those people living in that apartment will not be able to afford to move anywhere. So that just opens up a whole surplus of bodies. Whether they're going in foster care to prop up that ministry with their tax-free fucking payments, or whether it's fucking people ending up out on the streets and then dying because of they, you know, had a nervous breakdown, started drinking, who knows, right? Or maybe they're going to be straight up fucking murdered. It doesn't matter. One way or another, the bodies are going to start coming in. You can't just throw out 500 people from an apartment building and expect not to have casualties come from that. So why the fuck would I move in there just to be thrown out and have to face that again? When I'm already facing it. And you see, that's the point. I'm already facing it. That's how close it is to me. Like I said, I'm fighting for my fucking life here. And this shit isn't fucking funny. Okay? So I have to start doing paperwork, which makes me sick just thinking about it, because I have done it with Sierra, I did it with Uncle John, I did it with ShaMay. You know, I've been doing it, people, and it gets you nowhere, because we are dealing straight up with demons that do not follow their own legislation, and they will conspire to plot and scheme and hurt you to cover it up so that it never goes anywhere in court. But I have to try anyway. I don't have a choice, because I'm dying anyway. You see, that's the thing. I'm fucking dying anyway because of what these people around me have been doing to my life. I just didn't realize that they were trying to... I didn't realize to the degree as to what was going on, except for maybe what's been going on over the last several years. And now I'm adamant about it. The other thing I wanted to mention was, when I went yesterday, did the walk with the neighborhood cars, came up behind, and this happened before, and I find this to be heebie-jeebie, because the government, when they got reelected, they signed up with the Conservative Party in agreement that if you were deemed cuckoo or a threat to yourself or whatever, you could be involuntarily detained within the healthcare system, no prob. They made it where other people can just go in and swoop up other people and lock them up into a mental institution or a hospital setting and not fucking let them go. And we already had that problem, but they just made it where it's easier now. All right. And that was like when they had their elections in October or November or something like that. That was one of the first things David Eby said when he got up online after he got reelected and said, well, you know, we're going to try and work with the Conservative Party, and we are definitely in agreement with this issue, because there's too many homeless people running around going fucking bonkers, right? As they're throwing out more people, adding more people to the homeless crises. And the only way they can get rid of them is to lock them up and deem them incompetent. So that's why that was brought in. Not to help the people, but to clean the streets, clean up the streets, so that, you know, they can put on that charade, you know, make it look good on the outside. Oh, look how nice it is. Put the sign in front of the fence so nobody sees it as a fucking parking lot when it should be a building. That, whatever they were advertising on that freaking big sign up over there, Governor Road or whatever, that's like way down there over there across King George. That's in a total fucking district, man. Like neighborhood. That has nothing to do around here. So why is that sign there? Well, it's to hide the fucking parking lot. Because that's not supposed to be a parking lot. They're supposed to, their building got approved. That's why they tore down the house. So if you tore down the fucking house, why aren't you building? No, they tore down the houses because they're cutting backroom deals in City Hall, people. That's why. And Mrs. Gill knows it's just a matter of time before they fucking start building there. And somebody's going to want to build these 3 fucking houses and tear all these 3 fucking houses down. And they don't give a jack shit where you go, because they sell the problem off to a bigger fat fish that will chew you up like a shark with no remorse. So that they can wash their hands and say, well, it was good business. Finally, we got rid of that piece of fucking trash. Well, you take that to your fucking grave, Mrs. Gill. You got rid of the piece of fucking trash when you sell off this house. And you don't have to look back and never feel not a damn thing. Not a fucking iota of nothing. And that applies to the rest of your family. Because it's just good business. Well, I'm sitting here holding the bag. And my only recourse is to start filing a lawsuit, which I know is a joke. But I have to. At least try. Now, I mentioned that they brought in legislation so that they can start swooping up mentally ill people faster, lock them up and keep them locked up faster, because they know that they have a growing homeless problem being created by their backroom deals with these property developers, property owners, and partner groups that capitalize off of the mayhem as they're throwing out thousands of people at a time from district to district to district, whether it's houses or apartments. It's all the same. And when I went behind that building, 55 and over, that sits there 3/4 empty after 5 or 6 years since it's been built, that yellow hospital transport van came up and creeped up behind me. Literally, it was fucking creeping behind me. I heard it. I turned around and I looked, and it was right fucking behind me. It was like, if that person wanted to step on their gas, I would have been roadkill. That's how close they were to me. Okay? It came out of nowhere, people. All right, so I moved out of its way. This was the last video I just uploaded, right? I moved out of its way. It went past me, and then it wanted to turn itself around, right? Now, anybody knows who has the right of passage. Always the pedestrian. But not in this situation. That individual that was driving that yellow, god-awful looking transport vehicle to the hospital purposely went out of their way to take their time, to back up, to move, to back up again, and then slowly roll out of there as I'm standing there holding the camera, waiting for them to get out of my way. And I was afraid to move because I was afraid that they would fucking hit me, because clearly something was going on. I could feel it. And you know, and then finally they took off, right? And then I thought about it after the fact. And I've been thinking about it. And you know, people, that happened to me before. And I think it happened on that day when, I have it on video, on a different video from in the past, when I went in through that and then came out to the fence, right? That happened to me before, so that's not the first time that fucking vehicle creeped up on me and did that. Because I remember doing a video and having that, what the fuck, like, right? And then it did the same damn thing. It got up in my way where I had to stand there and wait for it to back up so it could turn around and then drive off. And we already know that building is 3/4 empty. And I'm like, well, that's kind of like deja vu. And I'm sure sooner or later at some point I'm going to come across that video where I've already documented that happening to me before. So I'm like, okay, well, we know the cops are having a problem with the homeless people. We know that the province, we know that the province is going around swooping up on mentally ill, disturbed people and locking them up without a trial. Right? We know how that works. All you have to do is look at Uncle John. And keeping them locked up, especially if they're homeless, just to clean up the streets so that they can hide the fact that they're creating homelessness, right? And I'm like, I wonder if they thought that maybe I was homeless. And because I was talking and recording, but the fact that I was talking to myself out loud, maybe they were thinking they could take that as an opportunity to have their goons that are sitting in the back of that fucking vehicle with no windows to jump out, grab me, and throw me in that vehicle and drive off and lock me up somewhere and then do God knows what they would want, because nobody would know. I'd just disappear. Because it happened before to me. What is the chance of that vehicle following me on that property, going past me, making sure it blocks me so I can't go around it, because if I go around it, it might hit me because it's fucking moving, because clearly they didn't care about me being the pedestrian. They wanted to turn themselves around and use their vehicle as a weapon to keep me, as a tool, to keep me standing there. Unless, of course, I decided to walk around them. And then, if they are going around, this is the point. If they are, if the city workers, the hospital, the Fraser Health Authority, any other health authority in partnership with the government is going around, I guess, kidnapping people off the streets that they deem to be mentally ill, what better way to do it than with a vehicle like that? Because that thing came out of freaking nowhere. And I'm like, okay, is that Project Bluebeam? Was I just imagining that? Because I've been through that once before on that property, walking through, talking with the camera, and I turned around and that bloody thing was behind me and did the same fucking maneuver like it did yesterday. 2 times. Why? And I'm like, no, it can't be Project Bluebeam. So where the hell did it come from? Well, it must be parked in the neighborhood someplace, and they put a fucking, they do little speed dials. So-and-so is in the alley. Oh, no, sorry. So-and-so is, behind the 55 and older building. They're in the alley. And because you can't escape, it's all fenced in. There's nowhere you can go. If that thing's creeping up on you, and if they've got people inside that can jump out and grab you and throw you into the cab and they drive off, nobody would know. Especially if the place is fucking empty. Do you see what I'm saying here? I mean, it could be possible because they brought in that legislation where it's easy for them to lock people up now under mental health and keep them locked up to hide the fact of what's been going on with the housing market and how it's making people go bonkers. And that's what I'm feeling today. And that's the point of this video. Day 3, City of Surrey. I'm feeling fucking going bonkers here because I have to choose between feeding my grandson, mainly Amari, high-calorie food with protein. Because if I don't, then I get attacked by this team, by that team, by this team, and he's already skinny. And they can't say feed him these fucking drinks because we did that, and all that did was make him skinny. It erode his cartilage because he wasn't getting the fucking collagen with the meat products. Why do you think I'm doing the bone broth? But I wanted to make more bone broth, but I had to give the fucking chicken to my son. And the one chicken that's in the fridge may or may not be good today. I don't know until I get into it because I couldn't cook it yesterday because I felt the whip on my back and I had to get outside. And technically I should be outside today and every other day for the next 2 fucking weeks because I know how the fucking city works. In these kind of situations, even though I've got my son screaming at me that he knows how the city works because he works with them when he's cutting trees and doing whatever he does. That's a different fucking scenario than what we're dealing with here in this yard, especially when you're being gang stalked. And when you're being told that you can't park your car there, but everybody else can park their car in the same kind of spot, but you're not allowed, then, you need to wake up and fucking realize what I'm trying to tell you versus trying to cut me down and say, well, nobody can talk to you because, you're too abrasive. Mrs. Gill doesn't want to talk to you because, the only reason Mrs. Gill doesn't want to talk to me anymore is because I remind her I gave up my fucking life for her. I gave up my eyesight for her. I forfeited my sewing for her. My children have lost their lives because of people like her in terms of the quote-unquote Punjabis so that they can get fucking rich while my family disappears. And then still face homelessness for the ones that are left as she sells off to the problem to the fucking shark to really come in for the kill. So they can build their fucking building and do what? Creep the alley with their mental health fucking, let's kidnap this person that's homeless sitting over there in the corner because they're talking to themselves. They're not rational. They're just talking to themselves. No, I was talking into a camera, just like I'm talking into a camera now. And I'm angry. And I've been angry from the moment I heard about this shit. And that's more reason why they do it, because they get that cortisol going and they want you angry. They want you scared. They want you hurt. They want you to cry. They want you to... everything negative. So if these videos are negative and it upsets you because my voice is curt and I can talk fast, I can lead you through the fucking path so that you can maybe see what's in front of you if you want to. Because if you don't, you're going to become a victim. Otherwise, you're straight up a fucking perpetrator. Yeah. There is no fine line. You're either the perpetrator or you're the victim. Which one? People think they can walk the middle fucking line. Little do they know. There is no middle line. So yeah, why? 2 times. Same van, same maneuver, stop me in my tracks. And the reason I say maybe there was somebody inside that was really willing to jump out, grab me, if I would have been homeless and sporadic in terms of going crazy, right? Because of my situation. There would have been nobody there to see it. Nobody would have witnessed it. They got it all nice and fenced off and nobody living in that building to look out their window and see it. I would have been gone. And all that does, people, is make me think about Debbie's house. When they blew out Debbie's house, and that man that was supposedly not there, who was taken out and put in that white China-looking death vehicle. Got a video on that. And then they rolled off with his body inside of it. And then spread the rumor that he ran away and nobody knows where he is, including the cops, which is a bunch of fucking hogwash. No. They kidnapped him and they put him in that death van and they drove off with him, and they probably turned him into a fucking super soldier of some kind with their stupid science experiments, because everybody that was blown out that house was fucking federal. That was federal SWAT of sorts. That was a federal operation of sorts, while the local RCMP were in the background hiding down the street. And I just happened to get it on fucking camera. Well, we had the SWAT outside my front door trying to keep me on the inside so that I wouldn't be able to record it. But I got it anyway. So when I see shit like that with the heebie-jeebies creeping up behind me, and then it becomes a deja vu that already happened once before, the last time I walked through there, I think the last time it happened was when I walked through there, and then I ran into that homeless guy that was wearing black, right, with his little basket, because they tore down the duplexes, and he was scrounging around for some food or something, I don't know. And I brought him up to the front, and I gave him a whole bunch of food in cans, yogurt, and everything, and I did a video. I think that's when that yellow, same kind of hospital fucking vehicle, transport vehicle, rolled up on me before I got into the area where he was. And if it wasn't that video, it was the video before it. The point is it happened to me 2 times. And being that there's nobody in that building for the most part, it's quiet, it's isolated. We know the politics that are going around in this fucking district when it comes to dealing with homeless people, as they're creating even more homeless people with no remorse, no escape. It's a complete setup all the way around. Don't be surprised if they're not fucking kidnapping people now, because they did bring in the legislation where people can be illegally apprehended, illegally detained under the Mental Health Act, and then illegally locked up. Faster, quicker than they were doing it before. Because they speeded up the process of tearing down houses, which flushes more people out onto the street. So they had to speed up that process, because too many people are being flushed out of not only their houses now, but they're going for the apartments. So don't ask me to move into an apartment when it's already been stated that those apartments are slated to be tore down like this house. I ain't moving into an apartment paying out of my nose what I can't afford just to be tossed out onto the streets so I can lose my grandkids, everything else. Hope the hell that my kids come out unscathed. In other words, they don't get murdered and get harvested through the process just to take out another family member. Well, I end up homeless in the alley with the hospital transport truck coming for me. And being that everything's all boarded up and fenced off, and there ain't nobody around except me and that hospital transport, as if anyone's gonna help me when I get kidnapped. There's your Punjabi politics. There's your province of British Columbia, Canada politics. There's your property developers. I don't care who they are. They could be Chinese, they could be fucking Muslims, they could be white people, they could be anybody. But there's their politics. They all know what they're doing. But they do it anyway. Because their solution is to clean them up off the streets by any means necessary. Either feed them the dope so they can kill themselves, and that's, right? Or they're going to start swooping them up. And they've been swooping them up. They're just going to swoop them up faster. I don't walk by that very often. Only when I record do I walk. 2 times out of 2 recordings. Don't you think that's a little too coincidental when there's nobody living in that building for the most part? And they go out of their way to block me and make me stand there while they take their time to turn their fucking vehicle around when they could have just waited and let me go, as if they weren't in an emergency. They weren't rushing to get to where they wanted to go. They were purposely trying to be a hindrance to what I was doing. And just by the very design of that vehicle, anybody could have been inside of it. And it was big enough for men to stand upright and struggle and fight with somebody that didn't want to go inside. And then strap them down on a table and say, "Lovey." And nobody would have noticed because they made it so that nobody can see anything back there for the most part. And if they even did, they'll be like, the person that's seen it would probably be like, "Oh, good riddance, got rid of another homeless person off the street," without even questioning why they're homeless. When in fact, some of those people that are living in those houses that could maybe see something are facing the exact type of homelessness that I'm facing. Because remember, there's 6 or 7 houses all in a row by that big fish that's going to tear them all down at one time. And it's already telling my neighbor she needs to get out in the next 6 months, and she's got nowhere to fucking go, and she's in her 70s. Not to mention the people next door and the next door and the next door and the next door. Okay, so you're going to kick out 7 fucking households with double suites. That's 14 households out of 7 houses, upstairs, downstairs. Multiple people, babies included, high commodity when it comes to being a foster parent, you know. Doesn't take much to look after a baby and make $3,000 a month tax-free to stick a bottle in its mouth, let it get a fucking diaper rash while the parents go fucking crazy out on the streets like Sierra went fucking crazy. So they can stimulate the economy that way and prop up that middle class. Yeah. And I'm sitting here fighting for my life, feeling guilty because I'm going to see if that chicken is good. If it's not, it's going to be crow food. If that chicken's not good, throw it out in the garbage. Well, I won't. I'll throw it outside. The birds will eat it. You know, the birds, I cut up pieces, you know how fast that shit will be gone? The crows will go nuts. Seagulls will start flying in if they're around, but the seagulls are dying off. You don't see too many seagulls anymore. But definitely the crows will show up. And if it won't be that, it'll be the freaking raccoons. And if it won't be that, it'll be the bloody possums. They come out at night. So I don't have to worry about it. The point is, why should I have to go outside and neglect my grandson so that my landlady can get fucking rich? Because that's all it's about. It's not about the yard, all that shit. Because if it was about the yard looking good just because, she would have had her son come and help me in the summer. And she can't say I didn't beg her, because I did. More than once. I reminded her, and I pleaded and I begged. Please, please, please. I expressed to her how important it was for him to come. I even reminded her that he promised me that he would come. But it was a lie. One big fat fucking lie. So needless to say, I'm not doing very good. I feel awful. I feel so awful. You don't even know how awful I feel. Physically awful, right? So I am just going to look after my grandkids today and see if the chicken is good. Cook it, grind it up for Amari. I have liver that he can eat today with nice mashed potatoes. I have kale that needs to be cooked before it gets no good, because this all happened because I bought kale. I was going to redo kale again, right? So I have to cook that up today and obviously grind up for Amari for tomorrow so that I don't have to come in and grind it up. It will already be grinded up, because I don't let Andre grind up food by himself unless I can basically see it after the fact or remind him what to do while he's doing it, because he's still learning. I tell him it will take a year for him to become an expert, and if Nana can't see this time next year, in 1 year you will be an expert at how to do it. So he's got a year to learn. But I'm not just going to assume that he can do it. So I have to do it today, so I don't have to worry about anything tomorrow. It will be easy for Andre to go in the fridge and get what he needs to get so that we can keep trying to give Amari calories, because it's hard, people. It's not easy building in a freaking schedule with him. Like, it's hard. And I don't have proper laundry, and I'm tired, and hard to see, and then they do this. So hopefully I'll get outside tomorrow. That's the plan. But I'm not feeling very well, so I can't guarantee how I'm going to feel tomorrow. Right? But if I can get out there, because once I'm out there, like I told Andre, maybe I won't get out there at 10, but if I can get out there by noon tomorrow, after putting in a full day, and I haven't even started my day here yet, because I'm blowing off all this excess negative energy, just whatever. Better this than crying. Better this than curling up in a ball on the couch and not moving and sleeping and getting more depressed. And you know, if I get out there at 12, that means I'll be out there till 5:30 tomorrow by dark. And you know that's going to do a number on me. And that's another reason why I probably shouldn't go out today, because I can kind of feel, because yesterday I was lifting big ass freaking long, thick, waterlogged stumps that my son is removing from everywhere as barriers, throwing them into a big pile where I have to now move them someplace else. And I'm carrying these things, bumbling along, trying not to fall with it or run into something with it. Straining and huffing and puffing, and I can feel it, but I don't have a lot of pain. I can just feel it. But it's definitely doing a number on my body, as my brain is raging. My brain is raging. And I'm getting sick, physically sick, thinking about having to sit down in front of a computer and start writing another lawsuit, knowing it won't go nowhere because I'm up against too many demons. But if I don't do it, then I'm dog meat. I'm dog meat either or. It doesn't matter. I am dog meat. My family is dog meat. But I guess it depends on what kind of dog meat you want to be. Let it be a bitter bite to these damn dogs. How about that? Since they want to eat me like fucking crazy fucking hyenas, well, when you chomp into me, let it be poison. Let it make you puke. That's the kind of dog meat I'm going to be. Yeah. Something that's going to make you repulsive and want to stay the fuck away from me, even though I'm dead. That's what they bring to the table, people. That's the cards that they play. That's what their actions speak. And the government can come in with their funky little fucking hospital transport vehicles that look like, what are those things, like paddy wagons? Only painted different. A big ass fucking paddy wagon. Yeah. So they can sweep the streets of their garbage as they throw it out onto the streets. And I'm gonna end it now. And I'm gonna put this first, then whatever I was screaming on about earlier. And we'll call it day 3, okay? Thank you very much, City of Surrey. You really motivated me to sit down and pull out the Criminal Code of Canada and start thinking about how I can write a lawsuit, even though I know it will never get me anywhere, because basically there's something wrong with you individuals that I don't even think, how do you say that? I don't think, not cure. I don't think you can cure them, but it's, you know, I don't think you can change them. They're beyond repair. They like being this way. That's how they get rich. Little at a time, piece at a time. Okay, so this is City of Surrey, day 3. January, what is it? 14th of 2025. You can put this first, and then my little rant with Shelley and her comment in regards to the Criminal Code of Canada and the section called conspiracy. Because as I'm sitting here trying to convince myself to put on some dirty clothes that I was wearing yesterday so I can go outside and work until dark, even though I'm not physically up for it right now. Because like I said, I haven't been outside in months, never mind working in the cold. And we know I'm struggling with my eyes, being dizzy and all that shit. And just struggling in general with this, which puts a drain on my body because I'm overworked inside. And I'm emotional. I want to cry, but I can't. Right? I bought chicken, I don't know, 4 days ago or something. When the city came, I gave 2 to my son because I was going to make more bone broth for Amari, right? Because I do have responsibilities here, you know? Besides a yard. That's not even my yard and is being used against me to hurt me and my family so that people that are hurting me can make more money for themselves. Because that's just basically what it's about. So I got that chicken in the fridge, which I haven't cooked up yet. I was going to try and do it yesterday when I came in, but needless to say, I was filthy and, you know, I was exhausted and, you know, I'm like wigged out with the cortisol going in my brain. So anyway, Andre is saying he'll cook it up today, and I'm like, no, Andre, because it needs to be cut, because, you know, I'm using my convection oven, because I can't use my oven because, you know, that little light that needs to be changed. Okay, whatever. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to have you go in the sink and, what do you call that? You know, cutting up chicken and all this crap and getting chicken germs all over the place. No, 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 no. I need to do it. And then I need to make food for Amari. I have to grind. It takes me hours to grind, an hour to grind up, like, fuck people. I have to grind up Amari's food so that when I am outside, it's easy for Andre just to go in there and grab a little dish of this and a little dish of that that's already pre-grinded. You know what I'm saying? Last night he did, and like I am getting Andre to learn how to grind up Amari's food with the right texture and stuff. So I had him grind up vegetable soup, and Marcane sent up some tacos that had some kind of chicken something in it. So Andre suggested putting the chicken in there, and I thought, that's a really good idea, you know, because we need that protein in him. So he put that in his, you know, little grinding dish, and then he threw in some crackers, and, you know, he grinding it, right? And then, you know, he comes to me and he shows me, and he says, well, what do you think about this, Nana? Do you think that? And I make sure I tell him, you know, take it out. I show him how to take it out, like if your finger is a spatula, so that, you know, no food is going to waste. Put it in his bowl. And then you still have to take your finger and double check everything to make sure there's no little chunks that missed. I'm explaining this to Andre, and he's doing it, because I tell him this time next year, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, and if you can't do it, Ministry of Children and Family Development are going to come in and take Amari. Why wouldn't we be surprised? Because I can't do it no more, by no fault of my own. But if Andre can do it, well, Amari's needs are being met. So he was so proud of himself because he did such a good job. And I told him, that's, you know, right now, you're learning the ropes. You know, he got it down to a texture that he knew that Amari liked in terms of the texture. I said, did you stick your finger in it and taste it? He goes, yeah. I said, was it good? He goes, yeah. Tasted like the vegetable soup because we know Amari will eat that with just a little bit of chicken in it. And I said, well, there you go. You know Amari will eat this vegetable soup and it's not overwhelmed with that chicken crap that Marcane, I didn't like it. But Andre put enough in there just to increase that calorie count, right, with the protein, right? And he got it spot on, people. Everything. He did everything right. And then he fed him. All right. Well, I have to cut up the chicken, you know, clean everything up, get it in the convection oven. I've got kale that I need to cook up, right? Grind it up. Because that's easy for Amari. Like, you know, I can give it to him cold. Sometimes, you know, I say, Andre, you know, just here, get the grind up kale and just give it to him like that with some juice. Because we're trying to, you know, not constipate him. So we break things up. And I find if I just give him straight up ground up kale or something like that, or asparagus with a little bit of juice in between meals or whatever, right? He tends to have an easier time with the bowel movement. But the more I put meat inside of him, chicken or whatever, you know, of course, you know, it's, yeah. So I'm still battling. What I'm trying to say is I have to deal with this first before I deal with a yard that's being used against me as a tool to hurt my family. And quite possibly take me out. Because they know I'm weak. They know it. And what do hyenas do to the weak one in the pack when they're hunting and wanting a kill? They go for the weak. And they take out the weak that's in the herd. I am the weak. And that's why this is happening now. Because nothing's changed. And it's been like this for fucking years. And that's what my videos prove. It just springs up out of nowhere. And no, you can't tell me it was just some random person that made the phone call. No, I don't think so. I don't believe it. I don't, people. I believe this was an inside job. And it even gets funkier when I'm being told that legally my son can't park his car out in front, but everybody else in the fucking neighborhood can have 1 car, 10 cars, doesn't matter how many cars they want outside in front of their houses, but not us. Yeah, no, there's something going on here. So I have to make a choice. Do I put Amari first? Because that's basically, and Andre. Do I put Amari and Andre first and just do the Nana thing and, you know, cook the chicken and, you know, cook the kale and wash the dishes? Because the dishes are piling up because I was outside, right? And if I don't do them today, they're going to pile up and then tomorrow's going to be even 10 times harder as I'm trying to cook. Or whatever, right? To provide food for Amari. Andre's a little more independent. He can make noodles or whatever. But Amari has special needs with a special diet that needs to be specially made. So I'm going to go get myself a can of mangoes or pears or something, you know, grind that up, put it in a little dish so that it's easy for Andre just to scoop, make sure there's nothing, it's good to go. So he can go in there and scoop up some grounded up pears, you know, he can scoop up some grounded up kale, he can scoop up some, like I made liver, like not last night, but the night before, chicken liver for Amari. And that's sitting in the fridge. So I need to grind that up and make sure he gets that inside of him today. As I'm cooking chicken and after it's done grinding it up so that it's grounded up for Andre for tomorrow. As I open up my jar of chicken deep, rich bone broth, boil it, bring it to a boil, put a lid on it, right? Get it ready so that when Andre is ready to put Amari's meal together, because Andre is learning how to do it, he can take some mashed potatoes, right? Put it in his little frying pan with a little scoop of butter, pour in that freaking bone broth that I already, you know, pre-prepped, right? Because, you know, you have to open the jar and you have to bring it to a boil like you would any kind of home canned good, right? And then you can pour and use and never have to worry about it, okay? But you always have to do that first step just to prevent the event that it could have botulism in it because it's a home canned product. It probably doesn't have it, but they always say bring it to a boil and boil it for at least 10 minutes on a, you know, with a lid on it. So I have to do that. So I have to prep his bone broth. I have to cook the chicken and grind up his chicken so that it's easy for Andre tomorrow when I'm out there like a dirty shirt, killing myself for so that somebody else can profiteer off of it. Right? Just waiting for my number to cash in. You're not going to get my lungs. I've been a smoker for 50 fucking years, so you can kiss those ones goodbye. My eyes are hoops, so you're not going to make no money off of my eyes. No. But you probably could make some money off of my liver. Yeah. And maybe my kidneys you could make some money. I'm sure you could use my skin. My teeth are useless, so you're not going to make no money there. But there's a little bit of profit on body parts when it comes to me. Because that's basically how I'm treated and looked as when I'm not trash. I'm just saying, a problem for the rich and wealthy and the ones that like to have their lavish lifestyles. Right? So what do? Put that nasty yard out fucking first in line? Let Andre scramble around what he's going to figure out to feed Amari? Yeah, okay. Or do I put Amari and Andre first? Do the dishes, cook the chicken, do the prep work. If I'm lucky, I might be able to get a load of laundry in tonight. Because you know that shit's piling up. Right? Go to sleep. Get up in the morning tomorrow, knowing that there's food in the fridge and I don't have to worry about it in terms of Amari. Okay? And Andre already knows what to do. And I can work out there all day with that whip on my back, on that side, on my legs, across my fucking head, wherever they want to whip it at me, I'll work. Okay? Because I'm working for my life and for the life of my family. So that other people can get rich and profiteer off of their criminal activity as a organization that conspires to commit crime. As a group. And I'm like, okay, well, how are you going to write all that shit down? It's easy to talk. Even if you write it down and you cite the numbers, you cite the codes, you cite the legislation, it's going to be a big fat fucking joke. Because you're dealing with demons in a alterated world. So I think day 3 is going to be inside doing food prep with love for my grandkids and making sure that the dishes don't pile up so that tomorrow when I get up in the morning I can work with confidence that the inside of my house isn't imploding. The more I work outside, the more the inside implodes because the laundry piles up, the dishes pile up, and all this other crap, right? That's why I couldn't sew for 12 years because I was always outside with that whip on my back. Anyway. So yeah, I have to put Amari's needs first with the food first. And make it easy for Andre. And cook for him because of course he'll be eating chicken as well, right? And whatever else I make today, throughout the day. As I do laundry and dishes and whatever I do. Think about how I'm going to start this lawsuit. And I'm thinking start at the top with the Criminal Code of Canada under conspiracy. That section. Yep. Call out the province. My landlord thinks the province should be responsible for what my situation is in terms of I should qualify for subsidized housing. Easy for her to say, go to the government and have the government subsidize you. I wash my hands. Well, if that's the case, then I'll go to the government and I'll ask them to subsidize my family as my landlord and her partner groups. Her partner groups, I don't care if you sell off the fucking house to another fucking partner group, you're still number one running the pack. 14 years, I'm sorry, it's not that simple. You can't just fucking walk away, expect some other person to come in and do your dirty work when it was always your fucking dirty work to begin with, because it was a setup the minute I moved fucking in and you said, take this house, stay as long as you want, we'll never raise the rent, but we won't tell you that you're going to end up living in the fucking yard so that you can keep the property value up for us so that we can eventually take our $175,000 that we paid for it after we made you pay for that living there all these years and then ask for $3 million as we single out your kids and pick them off one here, pick them off another one over through our partner groups who look and talk like us, who go to the same temple as us, but they're not us because we wouldn't do that. We're righteous. We're morally fucking righteous. So much so that we got to jump on a fucking airplane to go to a Vasaki parade so we can come together and feel good about ourselves and then go back to fucking countries as we destroy other people's lives so that we can go back to fucking India and do it again. If we're not doing it here in Canada, under the right circumstances, when the people are being told, we're having a Vasaki parade, this is the one you show up, but don't go to Miss Charney's. That board director that stole those certificates up there said, no, you can't go to hers because that's too much fucking power. That's too much freedom for the people to mingle and learn how to get along versus prey on each other and kill each other off for profit. Yeah. Okay, so today is January 14th of 2024. I'm trying to get motivated to go outside here, but like I said, I'm not conditioned for this, right? And I'm like highly annoyed because this could have been avoided, people. I already spoke about that in my last video. If my landlord's son would have came, like he said he was going to do, and helped me, like he said he was going to do, whatever's going on right now wouldn't be happening. But we know it was a setup, right? So with that said, you know, we have truly amazing Shelley posting, and this is what she said, and then I'm going to read my comment back to her because I don't know if YouTube will allow it to stay because we know with the shadow banning and the censorship, right? And this is how I'm going to start this video because, let me read this first. Truly amazing Shelley, right? Hi, Miss Judy. I feel so bad for you and your grandkids. Yeah, little deja vu, right? Right? I mean, it's like clockwork. Every 6 months, whatever, if it's not, give me $3,500 or I'm bringing in the bins. It's kick out your son or I'm bringing in the bins. Or give me more rent and then not even 8 months later, I want more rent, but I'm not fixing anything. And if I do, you pay half, but you better give me more rent because now I want $3,000, if not $3,500. All right. I mean, so we can't be surprised with what's going on with the city here in terms of, well, it's illegal for my son to park the car out in the front, but everybody else around the whole block radius can have 10 cars in front of their house, if not at least one car. Okay? But not my son. So you got how many houses around a whole block? Oh, we'll say 25 houses, give or take. And every house is allowed to have their cars sitting up in front in their driveways or on their grass that had gravel thrown on it, right? Just to make it convenient for the trucks to roll up or whatever, like at the UN soldiers' property, right? And right in front of a little dinky rancher. And then, you know, from house to house, but not my son. No. So clearly there's a conspiracy going on here, because I'm thinking about the Criminal Code of Canada. All right, I'm gonna give myself 3 choices out of the Criminal Code of Canada to start with, and I'm going to refrain from adding on too many, right? Because, it's too much brain strain to be thinking about all of the criminal activity that's going on in the province of British Columbia, Canada. So the first one at the top of the list, if I remember correctly, people, because I'm flipping through the pages in that Criminal Code of Canada in my mind, but I can't remember the exact section, and I can't remember all the sections, but I'm pretty sure there's one in there called conspiracy. And with the conspiracy section under the Criminal Code of Canada, that falls in line with a criminal organization, which it only takes 3 people in the whole country of Canada to form a criminal organization that conspire to commit crime. This is what I'm dealing with, people. And we know there are more than 3 people doing what they're doing right across Canada. But I live in British Columbia, Canada, so I'll just focus with British Columbia, Canada. In regards to manufacturing homelessness to free up that surplus of body parts that can be laundered through the black market and then funnel that money into the housing market. And that's why buildings like that 55 and older that's just up in the alley from me can sit empty, basically, because it's being propped up by laundered money that was obtained through illegal activity, as they continue to build more and more and more and more. Because what they're doing, these people that are doing this, they're stimulating the economy for themselves as a means to launder the money that they capture through illegal activity, because they're actually a criminal group that conspire to commit crimes, to gain wealth for themselves, because the only people that are benefiting from this are the property owners, like my landlords, as that are overinflating the property prices and getting the $3 million for something that should be maybe $800,000, I'm just saying, or the property developers that can tweak the cities, right? The cities, more than one, with the legislation so that they can put in their temporary parking lots as they're building a building down the road after they evicted hundreds of people from block to block to block to block to block. So those hundreds of people now turn into thousands of people. And because the corruption is so deep with the blessings of the government, okay, to fast track this building boom that's going on in British Columbia, Canada, they're allowing the cities and the apartment blocks and those types of places, right, to overinflate the apartment rents in the older buildings, so that as you're losing your housing over here and you think you can go rent an old apartment over there, you're not going to be able to afford it, because that older apartment is now going for $2,700 a month for a 3-bedroom, as it's on hold to be torn down. So eventually those people living in those situations, whether it's the old rent or the new rent coming in at $2,700, where some of them might be paying $1,200 from the past, eventually all of them in that old building are going to become homeless, face homelessness, because their buildings are going to be slated to be torn down, just like the houses are being slated to be torn down, and they're going to be evicted and then flushed out into the province of a wasteland where there's no affordable housing, because the only thing that's being built, basically, are the monster homes for that organized religion that commits organized crime under the Criminal Code of Canada via section through the conspiracy to commit crime, so that they can benefit, because it's sure in hell not those people getting evicted in those apartment buildings as they're being torn down, forced out into a housing market. And don't forget, a house over here, whole blocks of houses are also being torn down. Too many people are being thrown out into the street en masse. Well, the only people benefiting it from are the people like my landlords and her family, because they do it as a group, right? You know, they have more than one house, right? The Gills, Mr. and Mrs. Gill, own 4, 5, 6 houses, and then the son owns 3 or 4 houses, and then they pass on another house or 2 to maybe the grandchild, while this son over there owns another. So by the time the family is fucking done accumulating all these houses, because they help each other to purchase houses, they're holding 20 houses in the bag. And then you throw in a realtor in there that's wheeling and dealing, because they're right in the mix with the shit, picking up the old bungalows that are coming up on the market, because the old people are being medically kidnapped in the hospitals like Uncle John, and then all of a sudden their houses go on lockdown, because the social workers in those situations, when it comes to those temporary care wards, because I witnessed it for myself, people, so did my kids, those people that end up in those situations that own houses all of a sudden become incompetent, and then the social workers write it in the file that they can't go home, and they have to sell their houses, pay off what they owe, while they're living in the well, they're not living, they're being detained. While they're being detained in the old temporary care facilities, because they're not going to transfer them until the house has been sold, so that when the house is sold, they pay the bill for staying at that temporary care facility, because they can afford it, at $42 a day. And if they live there for 6 months, because they're being detained for 6 months, because it takes 6 months to sell the house, and because it's an old bungalow, in along comes Mrs. Gill's daughter-in-law, who's a realtor, picks it up real fucking cheap. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Or someone like her, right? Picks it up real cheap, puts it in a couple $10,000, rip out the carpets, lay down some, whatever that stuff is called, throw a little paint on the walls, and call it a day, and then rent it out to the next tenant at market value, even though it's price gouging, and run it to the ground. Don't fix it unless it's absolutely fucking necessary, right? If the yard is trash, get the tenant out in the yard working like a dog, so that, they can keep the property values somewhat up, because it looks good on the outside, even though it's falling apart down on the inside, and they don't want to fix the shit, because they know they're going to tear it down sooner or later. So why waste the money? Because that's not what it's about. It's about gaining more property, more wealth for themselves and their partner groups. Well, the people on the inside are struggling like my family, as we either get medically kidnapped, illegally apprehended, murdered, lured to our deaths, who knows, targeted for our cars, just whatever, people. That is conspiracy to commit crime. This is a well thought out plot in terms of what's going on in the province of British Columbia, Canada. Well, the government is turning a blind eye to the deeper criminal activity when it comes to illegal organ harvesting. But in the end, that's what it ends up resulting in, because that's where the big bucks is, so that they can build those buildings that sit practically fucking empty for 5 freaking years, and they can still hold down the fort and pay the mortgage. Yeah, right. Hi, Miss Judy. I feel so bad for you and your grandkids being affected by this situation. It was a setup, so don't be surprised. The landlord should be responsible for everything in the house that you rent 100%. Well, of course, but that's not what it's about. It never was about that. You're very kind and should be treated, and shouldn't be treated this way. I will keep you and your grandkids in my thoughts and prayers. I wish I was closer to you. Shelley. And then, I don't know what to say. I don't want to harp on this shit, but I have to. I'm in a corner. I'm fighting for my life. This is not a joke. And I came in just a little while ago because, I don't want to go outside. But I have to find the strength because I'm already worn out. And I haven't even started. All right. So I wrote, this is what I wrote, because I'm thinking. You know, got that cortisol going in my brain. Thank God I don't have a headache yet. Anyway, these property owners, I wasn't specific, but owners, because they're all in cahoots with each other, because it's a conspiracy, okay? And their partner groups. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be Fraser Health Authority kidnapping those elderly people and making it so that they can't go home. And then their houses come up for market. And people like my landlord's daughter-in-law, because she's a realtor, can go in there and scoop them up real fast because she's in the inside, right? So she gets the inside scoop first, right? And then that just adds on another house to their wealth building tactics, right? You understand what I'm saying? So, of course, you know, because they're integrated with, you know, they make bribes. Somebody bribed the social workers to keep John doped up, tell him that he wasn't going home, refused to let him come home. That just didn't manifest out of nowhere. No, that screechy fucking Punjabi fucking British social worker was bribed. And she took the money and she made sure that John disappeared like she said she would by any means necessary. But she was never held to account because the government covered it up because they know what's going on. You see, that's the thing. Because the other partner group to the property owners is the government. Right? And if it's not the government, it's the cities. Because you got now the city bylaw officers coming telling you that you're doing illegal things when clearly there's a discrepancy there, right? In terms of why is my son being singled out with his vehicle, but nobody else anywhere in any fucking house beside us or around us or down the block? It doesn't make any sense other than this is gang stalking at its finest, okay? And so on, and the developers, okay? So what? My landlady sold this house off to a property developer and let the property developer do the dirty work because the property developer got the green light from the province and the city to gang stalk my family, attack my family, abuse my family, and then throw my family out onto the streets knowing that there is no affordable housing. That becomes a crime, people, through conspiracy, because it takes more than one person to do it. It takes a group of people to do it. But under the Criminal Code of Canada, you only need 3 individuals to commit a criminal organization, to commit conspiracy, to commit crimes. So we're getting into conspiracy here in a legal sense. So I'm sitting here now, right? And I'm like, okay, well, how can you write this down? Like, it's one thing to talk. It's one thing to talk. Easy to talk. It's another thing to try and write it down. Especially if you have to bring in the logistics around it in terms of the actual legislation and the various parts and sections of the legislation. And don't forget, when you write this shit down, they don't like it when... I learned this with Uncle John. Now I'm going to do it anyway because I need to be able to see it for face value, right? It takes a little longer to do it, but it's not that. It's up in your face, okay? What they want is if you're going to write a lawsuit, for example, and you want to use this conspiracy under section something of the Criminal Code of Canada. So we'll say conspiracy section 1 under the Criminal Code of Canada. And then they've got A, B, B2, 1, 2, C, D, C1, D2, whatever, okay? Right? You know what I'm saying? All right. So you have to pick in that section for conspiracy where the crime is being committed. And instead of writing under section A1, conspiracy to commit a crime, via, I don't know, I'd have to read it, right? Via, you know, telling lies, we'll just say, okay? Keep it simple, right? So, A1, under this section of committing conspiracy, A1 is to commit a crime via through telling lies. If that's what you want, as, you know, in your lawsuit, they don't want you to put conspiracy to tell lies. They just want you to put A1. Because when the judge receives it, he goes into his chambers and he looks it up on the criminal code to see what it is that I'm trying to say. Right? So, but me, I like to write it down, because then if I'm talking and I'm talking to a judge and I'm looking at it or whatever, I can continue to read it. However, because they do change sections within the criminal code from time to time, like they do with legislation, what you wrote down initially could change through an amendment, or it could be rescinded at some point through Parliament, where it becomes all of a sudden null and void, even though when you wrote it down, it was in the Criminal Code of Canada. So before you write it down, they just want you to put A1, A2, B, B3, versus write what it is that section that you're quoting. Okay, I'm going to type out, because I'm not a computer that works with this shit 24/7, or a lawyer that's been doing this for 25 years, and I like to have that information right in front of me, so that if and when I should ever be in front of a judge, I can point, I can say this, I can read it, and if he questions it, which he would, he can go into his chambers and then come back and prove to me that it's been rescinded, or the legislation has been rewritten to read something else, and then we can amend, I suppose, the lawsuit. Otherwise, I'm looking at conspiracy here, and I'm like, okay, so what's the conspiracy? Where you can write it in words where they can't deny it by calling you frivolous, because that's the first thing they're going to do. Call you frivolous, call you scandalous, and a waste of the court's time. And then if that doesn't work, we know they bring in their funky case law with something else from somewhere else back in the day that has nothing to do with you, doesn't relate to you, and somehow they import you into that case law, accuse you of being that person that filed that case, that lawsuit or whatever it was, and then that's how they're going to throw it out. Because that one got over there, that case law that they're using as, evidence to throw out my lawsuit, somehow it becomes me, and because it was thrown out once before, they throw it out again, and they ignore everything that you write, because the whole system is corrupt. But you can't let that stop you from trying, people, because you're dog meat anyway. You see, that's the point. You're fucking dog meat anyway, okay? I'm sorry, you can't throw out thousands of people into a housing market where there's no affordable housing as you're tearing down the older apartment buildings, as they're being overinflated with price gouging while they're existing. So in other words, they kick me out of my house, and then all of a sudden I have to move into an old building that I used to pay $800 for, and now I'm expected to pay $2,700 a month, because that's the going rate through the corruption that's going on in the housing market, and then wait to be evicted from there, because that place is going up to be slated, because the city now wants to tear down that building and throw everybody out into the streets and not listen to them and say fuck you, right? Because, we've got this property develop over here, which is connected to the Gill family over there, and Souk over there, and whoever, because you're dealing with a conspiracy here, which creates criminal organizations. All right. So we got the Criminal Code of Canada with conspiracy at the top of the freaking list here. Okay? Seriously. Right? And then I wrote, these property owners and their partner groups, and there's many of them. It could be people working in the healthcare system, medically kidnapping the elderly by illegally detaining them like they did with John. It could be people working within the freaking Ministry of Children and Family Development, wrongfully and illegally apprehending children, throwing their parents out onto the streets ASAP to derail them and to disenfranchise them from their social safety nets, whether it's welfare checks, disability checks, housing, medication. We already know that because we went through it with Sierra, right? It could be murder, to chip off one here and chip off another one there so the house itself starts to implode from the inside. It could be working people out in the fucking yard like a damn dog until they're almost on their deathbed, because the city is trying to, prop up the neighborhood by making the house look nice so that the big fish can come by and buy up all the property, and not even within a year or 2 or 3, tear it all down, mix it all up, throw out the tenants, throw them out into the streets so that more body parts become available, because sooner or later people are gonna fucking die. And that's just the bottom line. And you can't blame everything on fentanyl. They'd like it to be fentanyl. Oh yeah, Miss Chorney died from fentanyl. She got suicidal because she couldn't handle the stress. She did it to herself. Fuck you, motherfucker. I'm coming for blood just like you're coming for my blood. It's gonna be a bloodbath. That's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be a fucking bloodbath. Okay? I'm sorry. There is such a thing as called a mother bear. And you know what? They don't die. Death. I'm coming back. But I ain't coming back in body. I will come back in spirit. You try and break my fucking spirit, you'll never break my fucking spirit. Ever. You're demons. You're gonna go back into the hole that you crawled in from. Out of. You're gonna crawl into. With that fucking soot. So we know there's many partner groups. It's not just the property developers. Yeah, you go to the dentist, you come back, 2 months later, your ears are ringing. Why? And they never stop. You go to the eye doctor, you come back, you spit, well, you get to your car, and what are you doing? You're spitting out freaking great big green gobs of glowing shit under the sun. Why? Because you're being targeted. That's why. Okay? I'm just saying. You go to get an eye referral so that you can get eye drops. Nothing happens for 2 fucking years. Don't be surprised if you don't go blind. Why? Because you were targeted. All right? Conspiracy is real. But it takes a criminal organization to follow through on what it is that they're conspiring under. That's what you have to write down in words and make it as plain as day. All right, okay, so let's just read. These property owners and their partner groups expect vulnerable women and children, and you can include vulnerable elderly people, man or woman, okay, as well as vulnerable men, okay? I just put women and children because at this point I'm just talking about me and my 2 grandkids. Okay, I'm not factoring in everybody else, but anybody that's vulnerable for whatever freaking circumstances, okay? All right? They expect vulnerable, how about just vulnerable people, right? To prop up their lavish lifestyles, because that's all it's about. That's like my landlady going off to fucking India at 84 years old in the middle of, middle October, coming into October. She went in October. It was October 12th of 2024. She was in India. Why did she go to India? For a Vaisakhi parade. That's what she went for, people. Right? And what happens? We get flooded out. She comes back. I ask her to give $100 to Alex, and she tells me pay half. I'm saying no, and then she's screaming on that she wants $3,000 a month. Oh, but you can go to India for a Vaisakhi parade and live a lavish lifestyle. And you can afford that, but you can't afford to give Alex $100 for coming to the house at 6 o'clock in the fucking morning, in the dark, in the pouring rain, cold, to snake out your pipe that you were told by a plumber to snake out at least once a year, and you didn't do it because you didn't care, because as far as you were concerned, you were going to sell this house and get rid of the fucking problem, as you accused me of being the fucking trash, while you ignored because you won't insist that your son come and fucking help. You needed an excuse to call the city on me. So you left it there, convincing yourself that I'm the trash and you're the god. And you multiply that by 500,000 fucking Punjabis, and what the hell with that kind of attitude do you think you're gonna get? A whole lot of destroyed lives. And therefore it becomes a conspiracy, because they're not doing anything to prevent those lives from being destroyed. They manufacture it. They want it to happen. So they conspire to make it happen through their partner groups. So you isolate down the partner groups. Fraser Health Authority, Ministry of Children and Family fucking Development. You can even include the justice system. Throw in my lawsuits because they threw everything that I've done so far out. Because they don't want to accept the fact that there are criminals sitting up in the Parliament building encouraging this shit through their legislation saying, well, the city has the right to fast track everybody to be kicked out of their houses because somehow these buildings that are going up are stimulating the economy. No, they're stimulating the underground economy so that the property owners and their partner groups can have a lavish lifestyle while everybody else becomes a fucking target. Whether they realize it or not. Because as soon as you get evicted from your fucking apartment that's old, after you moved in paying $2,700 a month, you know, you're just you're on death row. It's just a matter of time before they tear down the whole apartment building. That's what that meeting was about when I went to that freaking city hall shit. They're going now to the old apartments and tearing down them all. As they're tearing down the houses. And they're forcing us all out onto the streets. Telling us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. And if we can't do that, in comes the fucking partner groups to scoop up the little kids. Lock up the old people. Right? Whatever. Wherever they can make a little money for a little longer, milk them till there's nothing left to milk until they don't need them anymore, and then finally do a fucking Sierra. All of a sudden they're dead. Well, why? Well, I don't know. The cops said they did it to themselves. Accept it. Move on. Like, it's bullshit, people. These property owners and their partner groups expect vulnerable people, right, to prop up their lavish lifestyles. Sure, you're going to go all the way to fucking India for a fucking Vaisakhi parade, but you won't have one out here? Board director made sure that couldn't fucking happen, right? Because there's a controlled group of individuals that listen to their fucking bearded, white, mean-looking gurus with their turbans on. Right? Can't do nothing unless the guru says you can. And what do they want? Build wealth for the guru. And then somehow convince the community that they're doing something for the community. Oh yeah, but only for your community and nobody else's community. And that's why you had to go to fucking India for a stupid Vaisakhi parade. Versus standing up for fucking human rights out here. You gotta go to India for human rights. But the only human rights you're standing up for is fucking for Punjabis. That's it. Nobody else. Because for some reason, you think vulnerable people owe you your lavish lifestyle. As you set them up to fail through that conspiracy. With that criminal organization in partnership with a corrupt government. Write it down on paper. Take it to fucking court. Call them out on their bullshit. Because if you don't, you're dog meat anyway. Why the fuck would I move out of here to move into an old broken down apartment, pay $3,000 a month to have my ass kicked out in 2 fucking months to face the same fucking problem that I'm facing today? I wouldn't. And if I have to, I'm going down swinging. Call out the crooks for who they are. It's a do or die situation. They put you in a fucking corner now. There's no denying it. They will call you trash right up in your face if they think they can fucking get away with it because they're not going to get another penny out of you. So since they're not going to get another penny out of you, they're going to tell you. That's when they'll tell you exactly what they think of you. As long as you keep giving them what they want, they'll smile up in your face as they're plotting and scheming through that conspiracy fucking criminal group of organization of criminals to stab you in your back, and then they will come in and harvest you and your kids. Because you are nothing more than cattle to them. See it for what it is. Don't follow the Vaisakhi parade that is based on nothing but greed. There is no freedom in India. Why do they come to Canada? So they can commit fucking crimes. That's why. Because we're free. If you are a criminal, you will do well and you will flourish in Canada. to prop up their lavish lifestyles. They use us like cattle and treat us like garbage when they aren't making millions of dollars on body parts. You throw out hundreds of thousands, well, maybe not that much in Canada and British Columbia, Canada, but take it in the fucking United States, damn right, hundreds of thousands of people, okay, at a time, right across from one side of the country to the other side. And don't tell me that's a lie, because it's true. In British Columbia, Canada, you're looking at tens of thousands within a year, because our population is low, okay? Out onto the streets. They can't afford to rent the old buildings, which are going to be torn down anyway, and they can't afford to rent the new buildings, right? And they can't afford to find basement suites or a house because they're being ripped out from underneath their feet so that the ones that like their lavish lifestyles can build their fucking monster houses, right? Bring in more of their kind to repeat the process, right? And then after all the old white people are wiped out, you know, all the young people are wiped out that were born in this country that don't look like them, then whatever fucking immigrants that they brought in to fill in the gaps, sooner or later, one by one, disappear here, disappear there, and it will be so incognito, so unnoticeable. Business as usual. Good business. Yeah, well, here's your fucking good business. They use us like cattle and treat us like garbage when they aren't making millions of dollars on body parts.